Hey everybody, you're at the beginning of another episode of my modern fantasy thriller, The House of Grey. Yep, that's right, this is Collin Earl, and you guys are in for another killer episode. Last time, Monson came to the rescue of the green-eyed goddess, Taurus Green, just after he and Cyan shared a very tense moment. What happens next is Monson... Wait, I'm not telling you what happened next. You'll just have to listen and find out how this crazy roller coaster ride ends up. After the episode, head over to houseofgreybook.com and let us know what you think. Join the forum and interact with Chris and I on it. So set your away messages and hang on as we tick off number 6 in the countdown to the end with episode 34.
Monson was acutely aware of how long he held Taurus. It was hard not to be, the river of tears running down her face soaking his button-up and undershirt, while her trembling shook his very frame. Despite all that, he found that he did not mind. He was unsure how much help he could be to Taurus, so he did the only thing that made sense. He held her, and let her feel his strength, support, and love. Love, he thought. Now that's a heavy word. What did he know about love? You must hate me, sounded Taurus's muffled voice from his chest. Monson squeezed her tighter. I seem to have a funny way of showing people I hate them. Taurus sniffed loudly. If I hated you right now, think of what I would do to you if I suddenly despised you. She sniffed again. Monson sighed slightly. Taurus, who could ever hate you? You're Taurus Green. Hating you would be like hating... He struggled for a comparison. Would be like hating cake. I mean, come on, it's cake. No one really hates cake. Yeah, they might not eat it, and it's not the greatest for you, but you still love it. Taurus let out a mixed squeal, half sob, half giggle. Are you saying I'm bad for you? Monson pulled her away from his chest. She looked terrible. Her eyes were puffy, appearing painful and scorched, while the green emeralds that were always so full of life seemed dull and grainy. Monson realized that he was staring into the chasm of her suffering, and that he was ill-prepared to deal with it. Of course you're bad for me. My nerves are at the absolute limit. Having you for a friend, it's exhausting. Thankfully, Taurus reacted to his inappropriate use of humor. She laughed a token giggle. It dramatically improved her appearance. Friend? I thought I was your girlfriend. Monson laughed as well. Well, kudos for me then. Girlfriend Taurus. Taurus's eyes dropped. Monson wondered if he had said something wrong. Ex-girlfriend Taurus. Monson laughed again this time, letting the merriment run deep. Now that has to be some sort of stupid record. I had a girlfriend for like 5 seconds. Plus 2 points to the ex-girlfriend. She was able to break up with me using the least amount of words possible. Now, that is impressive. Taurus let out a second giggle, this one a little bit louder. Monson wrapped his arms back around her. There we go. That's the girl we all know and love. Taurus continued to stare at the ground, starting to rock back and forth slightly. Monson, there's a lot I need to tell you. A lot you don't know about me and my Taurus. The name pacified her. He was not sure why, but it did all the same. Her eyes grew big as she looked up at him. Hey, ex-girlfriend? The comment induced another smile from Taurus, this one more natural. She sure did have a great smile. She answered him. Yes, ex-boyfriend? Would you like to dance? Taurus jerked back in disbelief, her green eyes regaining some of their shimmer. I can't believe you. Yeah, that wasn't exactly the answer I was looking for. Monson popped up, standing straight, and proffered a hand. Miss It Girl. My Augustine.
would you do me the pleasure of a dance? One last dance?
Taurus shook her head, defeated.
Sure, Mr. Grey. I would love to dance with you. I feel like I should say something to you.
Monson and Taurus walked hand in hand through the endless curving hallway, passing many a gawking student. Confused, Monson leaned into Taurus.
You'd think they'd never seen us hold hands before. They're probably looking at me. I was sort of screaming at Damien right before I slapped him.
Taurus's breathing grew heavy again.
You heard then?
Monson shook his head.
I didn't hear anything. Well, not from anyone else at least. I saw your handiwork and heard it straight from the horse's mouth.
Taurus's body went rigid as she turned deathly pale.
He told you I slapped him? No, not exactly. He said that you had a mean right hook, but thankfully you only slapped him. I think I might kill myself.
Monson reached up and touched his face astutely.
Do you think you could wait until after we dance? I feel the sudden need to get my groove on.
Taurus was not listening, but staring at the door of the girls' bathroom.
Monson, do you mind if I go and freshen up before we head down?
Monson gave her hand a squeeze.
Of course not.
Taurus, moving quickly, disappeared into the bathroom. Monson watched her until the tail ends of her dress escaped from his view, leaving in its place a mix of potent emotions. He turned to face the window and the night. The air felt calm and peaceful, but held a soft blend of sadness and regret. These last two emotions truly confused him. He waded through the emotional tossed salad, but gave up after a few attempts. The sadness was not a bad feeling.
Thanks for waiting.
Monson circled to look at Taurus, his eyes instantly going to her face. He shot her a warm smile. A vast improvement, her former tears were still evident, but not so much so that it stood out. He proffered his arm. For some reason the hand seemed inappropriate, and they walked down to the main dance hall. The dance hall, a world in and of itself, slammed into them as they re-entered it. A greeting by Kylie's voice over the speakers saved them from any discomfort.
Ladies and gents, make sure you grab that special guy or girl, because this is the last song of the evening.
Casey's guitar flare was followed by the sweet pull of Kylie's violin, mixed with the soothing clip of a rumbling bass line. The music yanked at Monson in a gut-wrenching way. Inadvertently, he and Taurus glanced each other's way at the exact same time. Side by side, but not touching this time. They moved to the dance floor. Monson stopped right in the middle, where the bustling of footsteps and whispering of voices did not penetrate his attention. He stepped into the middle and into his own world. Taurus joined him, but made no attempt to grab onto him, instead opting to look on in discomfort. Their world felt like it was ending. Monson took a step to her in concert with the music. She mirrored him, taking a step back. She took a step forward. He mirrored her and took a step back. So close, yet so far apart, Monson and Taurus continued in their dance until he proffered a hand, and she took it. He felt her tremble at his touch. He spun her slowly, allowing the movement to deepen and unfold. When she returned, she clasped onto him, whispering a plea.
I need you to listen to my story. There's no forgiveness for what I did, but I at least owe you an explanation.
Monson shook his head.
Taurus, you don't need to. Please, Monson.
Taurus gripped him, gathering bunches of his shirt.
I need you to hear this.
He nodded reluctantly. Her voice took on a slight tone of despair.
I don't even know where to begin. I'm not who you think I am. I'm not who I want to be. I don't even really recognize the person you're dancing with right now. I'm different.
She smiled ironically.
Yeah, I'm different. I told you once that my first love was gone.
Monson thought back to the conversation they had in her special place, and when she talked of her first love and kiss. He said nothing, allowing her to continue.
Damien was my first love. Actually, he was my only love. I've loved Damien Peterson since we were kids. He was far different then. He was a bit of a nerd, incredibly goofy and a complete klutz.
Monson pulled Taurus a bit closer as the tears started to form again. She smiled as she saw what he was doing.
By about halfway through our freshman year, Damien changed. I can't even begin to explain it. He transformed, and ever since that time, Damien seems to be searching for something. What for, I'm not sure, but I thought that whatever he was trying to create, I was going to be a part of it. So, Damien pulled away from you?
Asked Monson, finally breaking his silence.
And that's why you decided to become Taurus freaking Green?
Monson gawked at her in surprise. She broke out in another genuine smile, one that was still sad but becoming progressively warmer.
I overheard Arthur. Hey,
interrupted Monson playfully.
Don't call him Arthur.
Taurus slapped his shoulder.
You know, you were off about the limelight thing. Well, I guess to an extent you were. It might be hard to believe, but I've always liked singing. I truly love it. I used to sing with Damien and some of our other friends when we were younger. I had a huge karaoke machine in my house. I think some of my old videos can still be seen on YouTube. They are so embarrassing. It was pretty bad.
Monson attempted to suppress a sudden image of a young Taurus dancing around the room singing Britney Spears at the top of her lungs. He almost broke into gut-busting laughter.
I'll have to look those up.
Taurus gave him a sharp look.
Don't you dare. They are so embarrassing.
Monson gave her an innocent, yet mocking smile.
I'm sure they're totally fine, and not embarrassing in the least.
Taurus started to laugh, an exciting development considering the nature of their discussion. Monson felt her body relax slightly, and he picked up the conversation.
Do you mind if I finish the story? I think I know where it's heading.
Taurus bit at the edge of her lip, which Monson took as a go ahead.
You guys came to school, and in doing so, Damien changed. He became the Diamond, the legendary figure that we all know. So he transformed, and with this change, his feelings for you altered. And of course, you being the wonderfully mindful person that you are, thought if that you changed with him, you could still be together. But Damien had different plans.
The final piece of a puzzle he did not even know he was working on fell into place. The reason for it all, this whole crazy, mind-boggling girl experience. Taurus had pursued him, flirted with him the very first day of classes, sat next to him in Mr. Gatt's class, gave herself that stupid name in his phone, teased him with every available power she had. Her outing to the cave, an attempted kiss, her question about love and war. It was all towards this sole end. Monson was even willing to bet that she was the one that had backed him in the student senate as a royalty candidate. Who else could have pulled that off? Monson wanted to kick himself. Why had he not seen it before? He had always felt that there was something wrong, something off with Taurus Green. Now, he knew. He knew that everything she had done was for Damien Peterson.
Taurus, you've been working towards tonight since the moment you met me, maybe even before. Part of your plan was using me to try and make him jealous in the hopes that he might realize what he had lost. You even shared that one place that you'd never even think of taking someone to. Most of your actions have been towards the culmination of that plan.
Taurus jumped as Monson laughed ironically.
I'm such an idiot. Your hand always felt like an instrument. Monson, I can't. I'm so very sorry. I'm a horrible person.
The pain in her voice echoed with the mistakes of her past.
I can totally understand why you would never want to talk to me.
Monson threw caution to the wind, letting his desire reflect in his actions. He took Taurus in his arms and drew her to him.
I'm so sorry for the pain you've experienced. I'm sorry that you have it, and that I could do nothing to relieve it.
Taurus squeezed him back, then instantly tried to push him away.
No.
She let out a sniff, trying to hold back the waters.
No, this is not how you're supposed to be. This isn't what you're supposed to do.
She struggled, pounding him twice on the chest.
You're being too nice. Monson, don't you understand? I'm a self-righteous, devious little sneak. I used you. I used you for my own personal gain, and I didn't even care what happened to you. I didn't give a damn.
Monson pulled Taurus away from him, which cut her off. Once she was at a comfortable distance, he bent down slightly so she could look into his big blue grays. Their line of vision connected and melded into one another. Monson prayed that she would not look away. In that visual embrace, he witnessed the reopening of long-endured wounds. She had been alone in her suffering for so long that she was not even sure how to face it, how to move past the pain. He could see in her eyes that she had lost anything resembling hope. Monson let two things, and only two, reflect in the intensity of his gaze. The first was a goodbye, a simple yet grateful tradition. He knew deep down her state of mind, knew that after this night, no more texts would be delivered, nor phone calls returned. He knew from the bottom of his heart that Taurus Green was going to leave him and to never return. That realization enabled them to find a solemn place amongst the dancing couples, a truly private space where their time and their privacy was unimpeded. Monson could feel the billowing of Taurus's emotions as it infused the air like a gritty coolness of wind-whipped sand. The sand chastened him, changed him, and helped him to know that distance was inevitable. The sand told him that as long as she had her painful, undying love, there was nothing he could do to help, protect, or heal her. That change could only come from her. Even so, he would not allow the wind-tossed sand to file away the second thing he wanted, no, needed, to convey to her. Monson looked at Taurus, conveying the feelings that words would not allow her to understand or accept. Taurus Green, the green-eyed, dimpled goddess of Corin, looked into the eyes of her hero one last time. She looked and found something that money and sex appeal could not buy. One of the rare, pure things in this world. In the eyes of Monson Grey, Taurus Green found forgiveness. Monson gave his parting admonition.
Unconditional love is the true virtue that we should all hope to gain. If only we could all learn to love as you do. I hope that one day, the love you give will be returned.
A final chord marked the end of their dance and their time together. Monson felt it. The magical yet weird night was over. It was time to go. Taurus's hands traveled down Monson's arms, moving slowly until she caught hold of his hands. She stared at him warmly, but seemed hesitant to speak.
I have to apologize, Monson.
She buried her fingers once more between his, squeezing nervously. Monson squeezed back.
You don't need to apologize, Taurus. I've learned something from you. I will forever be grateful for what you...
Taurus shook her head.
No, Mr. Hero. I'm not apologizing for what I did.
She let go of his hands, moving towards him.
I'm apologizing for what I'm about to do.
Taurus took his face with gentle, quivering hands. In the middle of Collin University, amongst hundreds of people, Taurus and Monson's lips touched, caught in a soft reluctance. Monson did not know how long he and Taurus stood locked together, but even years later, he knew all he would remember of that moment was the softness of Taurus's lips. Taurus pulled away from Monson while the latter simply stood staring dumbfounded. More than dumbfounded, he could not even start to comprehend this strange, diverging path. Monson wanted to talk to her, wanted to know why this was happening. He just could not seem to ask. Taurus looked flushed with burning patches of red creeping up her face.
Taurus, we just...
Monson's words suffered from their own inadequacy, melting into a pointless, formless babble. His heart, head, and body were spinning around in an uncontrolled teacup frenzy. He did not know what to do or say, so he just stood there. Taurus took an unsure step back. She looked like a frightened child as she touched her lips in a combination of horror and wonder. She brushed those lips softly with trembling fingertips, as if she just now realized she had them, then shook her head, fighting back the air of disbelief surrounding them, and not noticing the sudden movement of her own arms. Taurus wrapped those arms across her chest protectively, as one hand clutched at a beating heart. Tears started to well up. The two stood for a moment more, until Taurus turned from him and broke into a run. Only then did Monson find his voice.
Taurus, no, wait!
She was gone, disappearing into the crowd of milling students, leaving Monson to his own confusion.
Dude, at the very least, you could have waited until you were, somewhere a little more private.
Impeccable timing, Casey Notorious trotted up to him. The sudden appearance and comments made him go a bright shade of red.
Shut up, Casey. I didn't know she was going to... Well, you know.
Dude, she kissed you, Grey.
Casey slapped him on his shoulder.
Go ahead and say it. It's not a dirty word.
Monson thought it was improbable, maybe impossible even. But sure enough, Casey's grinning face made him go an even deeper shade of red. Monson attempted to redirect.
Enough about me. Let's talk about how I should hit you. What was with the whole me dancing with Cyan thing? That was your brilliant idea? Me getting up in front of our entire school and making an idiot out of myself?
Dude, you sound like a chick right now. Stop your belly aching. You guys own that dance like a dance has never been owned before. I'm impressed you remembered that much of the piece. You only saw it once.
Monson pushed aside Casey's implication. He was trying not to think about Cyan.
Okay, topic change. What's with the sudden performance? When and where did you learn to play like that? There's no way that you, Kylie, and Arthur could just bust that out with no practice or anything.
Notorious glared, sulking.
We all went to St. Brown's together, Monson. Everyone there was required to learn an instrument. Most opted for the piano, as it's the easiest course schedule. I took up the keyboard and bass. Casey and Kylie tried something else.
But that doesn't explain how you were able to play together without any...
Notorious cut him off.
That's what I'm telling you, Grey. We did practice. We practiced together a lot. Do you remember the story I was going to tell you the very first day of class about Casey and Kylie?
Arthur!
Now is so not the time.
Notorious groaned.
Case, come on. He's going to find out eventually. That is beside the point. Plus, she might hear you.
Casey pointed across the room.
Kylie Cormack stood slightly pink-faced, a fair distance away from the three near the northern exit of the Coliseum. To his surprise, she was not alone, but standing with
Cyan?
It seemed Cyan had noticed Monson before he had realized she was there, as she was already looking at him when his eyes finally found her. Her countenance cut into him with an icy, vengeful expression. Monson wondered why she appeared so annoyed. Kylie and Cyan exited the back door alone, disappearing quickly out of sight. The boys watched the two older girls slip into the northern hallway, letting their gaze follow after them. Casey turned to Monson. "Did you know they were friends?" Monson shook his head.
Sure didn't. Something weird is going on here.
Artorius interjected. "You mean besides you making out with Taurus Green right after you have the world's most romantic moment with Cyan Harrison?" Casey and Monson gawked at Artorius's bitterness. He sneered. "I hate you, Grey." Monson started to answer when an echoing scream cut him off. The scream was excruciatingly painful, shaking him at the very core of his being. Monson stumbled to a knee, grabbing at his head. Casey and Artorius were at his side in an instant. The screaming jumped in intensity, filling his ears with its piercing shrill. The sound raged hotter in his mind until it abruptly cut off, but not before a voice he did not recognize called out, Help me! Monson gulped the air around him, drinking it in. Casey and Artorius exchanged concerned looks and were ready to ask what the heck was going on when the dull thud of wheels stopped them.
Grey!
Monson heard Grayson's voice crack distinctively without his accent.
Grey, snap out of it. Something is wrong.
Monson felt his mind clear as Grayson and Marie neared him, but it was far from peaceful. The screaming. Who had been screaming? Monson stood upright, intending to look for the source of the voice. Marie had other plans. She came upon him so quickly she almost tackled him. Her touch jarred him, as her hands were sweaty and hot, showing that she and Grayson had been moving quickly. This, coupled with her ragged breathing, told Monson that right now, he needed to listen to Grayson. Grayson wasted no time and rolled right up to the three friends. Once in reach, he grabbed Monson's arm tightly and pulled him towards a small shining screen. Grayson was trying to speak, but seemed to be having trouble articulating the problem.
Grey, we have to go. The reading, it's out of control. You don't understand.
Monson tried to cut Grayson off.
Grayson, seriously, you need to chill. I can't understand anything you're talking about.
Grayson, still rambling, pointed towards his lap at the device he was holding in his hand. The small gray box looked like one of those old-school portable TVs from the late 1980s. Monson almost started to laugh until Grayson finally got out his statement.
Reading, Grey. This is a reader.
That wiped the smile right off Monson's face. The reader, a device that Humane used to track and find magic users, a device that brought Grayson and the whole of his organization into Monson's life, was lit up like a bizarre Christmas tree. Monson dipped down to look at the piece of equipment. He did not understand most of the lights, numbers, and colors that flashed across the reader's screen, but he did know what the single climbing line meant.
Someone is here, right?
Monson asked Grayson.
Someone that we aren't equipped to handle?
Grayson nodded slowly.
It's off the charts, Grey. Something extremely powerful is here, and spewing a ton of energy.
What are you guys talking about? Casey gave Monson and Grayson a bit of a shove. You guys make it sound like we're going to be attacked. Monson and Grayson shifted to stare back at Casey. As they held that gaze, Casey's face became increasingly grim. He gestured towards Artorius. Okay, what aren't you guys telling us? And where did your accent go, Grayson? Grayson answered quickly.
It will take too long to explain. Just know that someone with strange abilities is coming this way, and they probably don't intend to make nice.
He paused briefly to pull out his pocket PC and started tapping quickly.
Sorry about the accent. When I get excited, I forget it sometimes.
Artorius and Casey stared in slack-jawed confusion.
I assure you, it's quite real,
said Grayson, slipping back into the southern drawl.
I can just turn it off and on. It's one of my special talents. Master Grayson, we need to be going. We should call the helicopter before whatever it is comes this way. Wait,
interrupted Monson.
Do you know what direction it's coming from?
Yes, of course.
The reader is quite accurate within a couple of... Where's the source?
A thought. One single, terrible, terror-soaked thought suddenly occurred to Monson, and it would not wait. Marie dipped her head once and started to fiddle with the box.
Northeast. The power surge is coming from the northeast.
All the color drained out of Monson's face as he realized the implications of that particular direction. He faced Casey, the look of foreboding still on his face.
Cyan and Kylie. Miss Harrison and Miss Cormack.
Marie started to rummage in a small handbag.
What about them?
Artorius answered, They just left. Through the northern exit. Monson and Casey did not say another word, but took off, leaving a shouting Marie in their wake.
Wait! Master Grey!
Monson did not look back to acknowledge her. 2 minutes later, Casey and Monson burst out of the exit on the northern face of the Colosseum, breathing heavily, both feeling panicked.
Where do you think they got off to?
Monson peered in every direction, searching desperately. Nothing. He could not see anything important down the lighted walkways. New ones, actually, courtesy of Christopher Barty. The new walkway led to an equally new huge marble statue display just past the northeast face of the Colosseum.
Who knows? I don't know where girls go to sulk.
Thumping footsteps announced the arrival of Artorius. With nothing else to look at, Casey and Monson turned to watch him run up next to them. Monson swore aloud. They were wasting time. They had to find the girls, had to find them before that scream erupted again. Monson started to take off, just as Artorius's massive hand stopped him from going anywhere. Wait, Grey. Look. Monson was about to follow Artorius's hand, but did not have to, as what he was pointing at was plain for all eyes to see. A crazy mass of silver light flooded into the air not 50 yards from where they were standing. Then, Monson heard it again. The scream echoed again in the foreground of his mind. He did not waste any time. He ran. Moving quickly up the white path, the three boys came to the start of the brand new steps. They bounded up the stairs 2 at a time. Casey was the first to arrive, stopping dead in his tracks once he passed the last rise. Monson crested the final step to see his worst nightmare come true. Black-clad commandos holding wicked science fiction weapons littered Barty's new monument to the Roman and Coran gods. The figures were distracted by the mass of silver light that was completely overpowering the top of the plateau. Monson tried to see what held the commandos so captivated. One look into the source of the light was all he needed. Cyan Harrison and Kylie Cormack sat in the middle of a silver-hued bubble of energy, with no less than 10 of the commandos pointing and poking weapons at them. The commandos shouted angry commands at one another as they attempted to get to the girls using long-bladed weapons to test the shield of silver light. Fortunately, every time one of those men touched the silver transparent barrier, they were tossed back forcefully. Monson focused in on the girls, attempting to assess the situation. Kylie looked scared, not at the men surrounding them, but at the prone figure she hovered over. Monson felt his heart leap into his throat. Cyan, the invincible Cyan Harrison, lay sprawled on the cool marble, her blue dress ripped to shreds, and her arms covered in some sort of dark, oozing substance.
Blood,
said Monson aloud.
She's covered in blood.
A roar, like one never before heard, exploded from Monson Grey. He felt an abrupt, jagged, cutting loss, one that resonated deeply within him. His rational mind began to shut off and anger began to dominate his mental vision. Echoing laughter inside his head clouded any judgment of right or wrong or any sense of morality. As the familiar anger-infused fire began to creep over him, Monson glanced at his limbs just as the residue of faint light started to flicker from them. Shuffling footsteps, coupled with the clicks and clacks of locked and loaded weapons, made it clear the commandos were now aware of their presence. As the thoughts of planning their attack departed along with any sense of humanity, the boys jumped into action. Casey shot forward, making use of his blazing speed. The two closest commandos were not fast enough. The first held one of the fairy tale-like blades. Casey, not even taking heed of the weapon, raced towards him. A low, heavy kick to the legs threw the commando's balance off, making his predictable counterthrust sloppy and unfocused. Casey sidestepped the blow, but not without deflecting the arm of his attacker. A loud crack from the elbow followed as the commando's weapon popped into the air. Casey finished the man off with a blow to the back of the neck, effectively disabling him. A half-second later, the airborne blade landed in Casey's outstretched hand. It could not have arrived sooner, as the second black commando was now just stepping forward, leveling a shining gun. Monson and Casey simultaneously realized that Casey was not going to be able to react in time, and that the man with the shiny hand cannon was going to blast Casey to kingdom come. A huge red-headed blur, like a red freight train, flanked the commando from his rear, making any sort of shot impossible. Artorius did not do anything fancy. He simply used his massive bulk and plowed into the commando, crushing him to the ground. He picked up the gun once he was sure that the commando was not going to move and looked at the other two. Monson jumped to their sides, ready to enter the fray. Casey, apparently calming down after his sudden burst of violence, grabbed him.
Grey, dude, you have to chill. We're so outnumbered, remember?
Monson growled through gritted teeth.
Casey, let me go.
A disembodied voice rang out, colliding into Monson, Artorius, and Casey, and chilling them to the bone. Monson had heard that voice before.
So, the son of the great betrayer finally makes his appearance.
A man robed in a billowing black cloak stepped out of the shadow of the silver light, with what looked like a bright light held in his hand. The tick and tinder of a relatively warm night went cold as Monson gasped aloud.
Breath of the dragon.
In the hand of the black-cloaked man was a Magi's blade.